Hi, everyone. We are here today with Amanda Lankarge here at Coastal Conversations. Amanda, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today with you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's not just your first time being on this podcast, but I think we have a few celebrations here. The biggest thing is you did what yesterday? You want to tell everyone?
So I have been cycling at Salt Cycle Studio in Tiverton. Amazing. Salt stands for seriously addicting, life transforming.
Okay, I did not know that.
I know.
Seriously addicting, life transforming.
And it is that and more. It is spin, but it's so much more than that.
Okay, I thought it was just a coastal thing. So Coastal Conversations. Like I thought it was Salt Cycle because we were like the ocean state. That's a little bit more.
It's part of it. She's got salt lamps around.
Yeah.
There's salty vibes, of course, right? We're coastal.
This is juicy information.
This is an acronym. And it's amazing. The community, the instructors, the energy. I mean, I walked into that studio 5 months ago, a dark room, no lights on, sat in the back row, didn't know what to expect. And now I'm in the front row, loving spinning. Took my 100th ride yesterday. And it felt amazing.
Yeah.
I've been able to transform. I've lost weight, I've built endurance and everything, but it's so much more than that. I'm the strongest I've felt. I feel good mentally, physically.
Well, the discipline to show up for not only yourself every day, but like showing up for everyone around you, showing up for what you do for work, that kind of transitions into what we were going to talk about.
Yes, no, exactly. It's that stress relief after a long day. And there are days where I'll take 2 classes a day, morning and night. I'll take a double. It requires consistency and motivation. And it also helps when you find joy in moving your body. If you just go to the gym and you have to force yourself to do the elliptical or get there, that's hard. That's not motivating. But when you love it and crave it and you find joy in it, that's the greatest gift you can have.
Have you found, because at one point in my life, I was a big runner in high school.
Okay.
I got that runner's high.
Yeah.
Where I felt as though running a marathon was like skipping.
Right.
And my endurance was so high and I just loved it. And I just wanted to like go and jump and move and run. And every time I was in a car, I was like, okay, I need to go.
Yeah.
Did you ever get that from Salt Cycle?
I do. The endorphins are definitely there. There's this high too every time the beat drops and we're going into a sprint.
Let the beat drop.
There is something so empowering to moving your body to the beat. They say feet to beat is the concept.
Okay.
And moving your feet so fast to the beat, you get this high adrenaline rush where it's like you're on top of the world spinning. I didn't even know my legs could move that fast. But there's this high, like you're saying, where it's just like, wow, I just did that. And it leaves you breathless. And it's kind of amazing. There have been a few times my eyes will fill up with tears being like, oh my God, that was so empowering. I just did that.
Yeah.
So 100 felt very sweet yesterday.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell everyone a little bit about who is Amanda Lankarge, when you're not spinning. What do you do during the day?
Yeah. So my job, I work as an elementary assistant principal. But prior to that, I started as a classroom teacher.
Well, you also have your wonderful shirt.
I do. My assistant principal, repping it with pride
Teach,
today.
love, inspire, motivate, encourage. That's cute. I love that.
Yeah, it's all that and more. I mean, I started teaching right out of college. I studied early childhood education and psychology, and I worked in urban and suburban districts and really got experience in both. Fell in love with urban ed, and I moved to Boston out of college. Yeah. Met my husband.
Where'd you go to
there. UMass Amherst.
Okay.
One of the best 4 years of my life. It was the best college experience I could have asked for.
I don't know about you, but I feel, because I went to Roger Williams in Bristol.
Yep.
But I felt as though the 4 years went by like that.
Blink.
And so I stayed an extra year in Bristol in absolute denial.
Love that
I wasn't being forced to stay any longer. I was like, wait, you're kicking me out? What do you mean I graduated?
They say your life is just beginning. I felt like my life was ending. I was like, no, the world is ending. This can't be done. And they're like, no, but your life's just starting. And I couldn't understand that. And like, there is something so amazing about each chapter of life. Yeah. But in college, it was like we had our own zip code at UMass. It just felt like I was in my own world.
Okay, we didn't do that. Roger Williams did not have their own zip code.
But it was just like 4 years where I went to a very small high school. So I'm glad I went to a large university.
How big was your high school?
2 towns, graduating class of 110. 2 towns.
Okay, so we were about 130 maxing at our peak, but we probably graduated with like around 115.
Yeah.
And that was one town.
Yeah.
But I'm from outside New York City area in the suburbs.
Yeah.
But I went from literally 100 people. I looked at University of Rhode Island where my mom went, and I was like, too big, too big.
Right.
I thought it was a great school. I thought she was a sorority girl, but I was like, it's just too big.
Yeah. I felt that way about UMass Amherst at first too. I went and toured University in New Hampshire and UMass Amherst, and I said, no, way too big. I'm going to be a lost puppy on this campus. And then my mom was like, maybe we just go back again. Let's go on another tour. The first time I went, it was a rainy day. I went back on a sunny day. I had toured a few other schools, so I kind of went in with a fresher slate in my head. And I'm so glad I did because I saw it from a different lens. I appreciated that there were small schools within the large university. I was an education major, but I was in the early ed program, and there were only 10 of us.
Wow.
So you think of a campus with 25,000 people, my school had,
you had 25,000. See, that's like baffling to me because I think we had at Roger Williams was like 1,000 per grade.
Yeah.
And then we also have Roger Williams Law School, which is the only law school in the state. Like, how?
Right. Is it really?
Mm-hmm. Where's Brown?
Wow.
Where's Johnson & Wales? Brown, University of Rhode Island. Yeah. Like, we have so many colleges. Why are we the only law school in the state?
No kidding. I would have never guessed that.
Anyway, that's our claim to fame.
Interesting. Well, I mean, there's something to be said. I felt like I would walk around that campus within the 4 years and everyone knew my name or I knew them. And I started teaching group fitness classes. So I'm spinning now, but group fitness has been a part of my life.
Awesome.
For a decade now. I was a dancer all throughout high school.
Me too. Oh, not that way, but yes.
I was a professional ballet dancer.
Okay.
And I danced for the State Ballet of Rhode Island.
Oh my God.
And so I started as an ed major and a dance major.
Okay.
I got into some conservatories, but I loved dance, but I was like, what am I going to do in 5 or 10 years once my body says we're done? What am I going to do with my life?
It's like football players and anyone in high sports. You're like, what happens when you have to retire because your body is telling you we're done?
Or you get injured. Then what? Mm-hmm. I needed to know that fallback was there.
Yeah.
So I started taking dance classes, but doing the ed major and dance major got to be a lot. Okay. So I dropped the dance, but I still needed to move my body. So I started as a group exercise instructor. You figure a campus of 25,000, I would have like 100 girls packing into my classes. And it was amazing. I loved it. So empowered. So to this day, group fitness is a huge part of my life. But education, it was great. The 10 of us in the school, it was so great. I moved to Boston knowing that I could really work in urban schools, really make an impact. So I started as a kindergarten teacher.
Oh, I love that.
For 4 years.
I still remember my kindergarten teacher, actually. It's so funny. My mom ran into her recently and said that Miss Mullen remembers you. Shout out, Miss Mullen.
You never forget. It's your first teacher. It's your first public school teacher.
Miss Bielson. I like, it's so crazy. You remember these things.
It is. And like, I think one of the best parts of that age is they're sponges. They're absorbing everything. Mm-hmm. Yes, they're learning to read and they're learning their letters and everything, but they're also learning how to share. They're learning how to talk in full sentences. It's just they're sponges. They crave and latch onto everything, and they also crave love too. So you're kind of like that mother figure. There would be kids that would call me mom by accident, like, just because they felt so safe and secure in the classroom. So kindergarten was very rewarding. Definitely my favorite age to teach. I did teach second grade for a couple of years as well. So I always was in that K to 2 umbrella.
So we had, I want to say it was like kindergarten, first grade was a different teacher. And then second and third was the same teacher.
Oh, okay.
So they
kind of looped.
Yeah. So we had the same teacher 2 years in a row.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be said for looping because you get to know on this deeper level that the relationship is there. Mm-hmm. They know you as a learner. They can really, like, right out the gate that next year, they know exactly where to go with you. So there's a lot of perks to looping. You don't see it often anymore, but it's great when you can have that.
Yeah. I should have brought it in. My mom's been cleaning out like her house. And so recently she went to grab dinner with me, jumps in my car and gives me a pillow.
Oh my God.
And she's like, you made this in 3rd grade. And I'm talking like it was on the last podcast, by the way. It was, and it's still in this office.
Oh my God.
But I'm like, what am I going to do with it? I can't get rid of it because I made it in 3rd grade. But at the same time, I'm like, it's like a half pillow.
Yeah. I have that bin that my parents gave me, and it has like tabs for like.
Okay, so they gave you the bin, and they're like, "Here's your bin.
This is grade 1, 2, 3, and it has all like the artifacts and newspaper clippings.
They were way more organized.
It's nice to have. I mean, yes, it lives in my closet, but it's nice to take out every now and then and reminisce, and special memories.
You realize how quickly when you were that age. I just remember being, I want to say like 5th or 6th grade, looking out and just being like, I want to grow up because I want to have like ice cream whenever I want, and I want to do things whenever I want. I don't want to have to ask mom and dad and blah, blah, blah. But then now you're like, I want to be a kid.
I know. Isn't it funny how we crave the part of life we were already, it's crazy.
Yep. I want to be a kid. I want to go back to having those fun memories where you didn't, didn't have any real curfew of anything. You didn't have any real responsibilities. No. It's kind of crazy.
I know it is. And that's why you just got to live in the moment. You got to, as we go through each part of life, you just got to enjoy each part because exactly. You want to go back.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your job and what you're seeing nowadays with kids in school and everything, especially being an assistant principal.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that schools have shifted a lot post-COVID. Okay. That where we were 5 years ago looks a lot different now.
How so?
I mean, we've had this huge shift in technology. Right. So the infrastructure we had to build in 2020 because of COVID, there were positives from that because we built a lot of knowledge around technology. Our students are 1-to-1 on devices with Chromebooks. I never had that in school.
Did you learn how to type? Like we had typing lessons.
With like the cardboard box over the keyboard, and you had to like learn and look at the screen.
And you like had your fast keys or something, your quick keys, and then you had the little buttons I'm like,
I know.
Floppy disks?
Oh my God. Right.
Do you remember what a floppy disk is? I mean,
barely.
The whole thing, the internet dial-up.
I know.
This doesn't exist anymore where you pick up a phone and kids have everything at their fingertips.
They do. And that's the thing. At home, they have access to tablets. They have access to phones. So they're coming in with more technology understanding as it is. But we're building computer readiness skills as early as pre-K and kindergarten. Okay. They're learning to use devices 1-to-1. And that's a huge shift in the past 5 years.
I mean, if I was like a young kid, I'd be like, okay, well, what about going on Instagram or Pinterest or something? Like, what are they doing about this technology?
So there definitely are blockers. Things like YouTube are blocked. This year, Spotify is going to be blocked. That's new because we've had students that are looking up songs that are inappropriate with lyrics. So there's actually a real... little secret as an assistant principal. I have a program on my device called Go Guardian. And Go Guardian allows me, anytime a student is typing into their Chromebook, if they type something that's inappropriate, if they type something that's concerning, I get an alert sent right to my email so that I know exactly which student, what they typed, and I can go check in with them just to make sure the device is being used appropriately.
So imagine this 20 years ago when we were looking up like Eminem songs.
Yeah, exactly. Anything like vulgar, Nelly. I'm getting an alert.
Like Eminem, Nelly, like any of these, Britney Spears. Come on.
I know.
We grew up with that.
So things like Facebook are blocked, Twitter's blocked. But another tricky thing too are the smartwatches. So kids are coming in wearing smartwatches, but and I have one on right now, but I mean, there'll be kids that during the school day are calling mom in the cafeteria, or they're recording on their watch. And, you can't be recording your teacher and you can't be recording during the day for privacy reasons.
So how do you stop something like that, or how do you control something like that? Because that's a watch now, especially an Apple Watch, but a watch nowadays is almost as strong as a cell phone.
So what's interesting, a lot of these watches now have what's called school mode. Okay. They have theater mode that you can activate. If you're in a dark room for spin class or at a movie theater, you can put it in theater mode. But there's also a mode called school mode.
Okay.
So the phone.
I'll find out.
I know. I learned this recently too. The way we're handling technology, we just had a meeting today as principals, how we're going to handle it. We updated our handbook. We're having it so that watches and cell phones are turned off and in the backpack. They're there if there's an emergency and you need it, or if you're on the school bus and let's say the driver goes by your bus stop and you need to call mom or something, it can be in your backpack turned off during the school day, and that's how we're handling watches to the same way now. But these are new challenges that we're kind of writing new language about, 'cause these challenges didn't exist before.
Well, and it's kind of, I'm just going to parallel this quickly.
Yeah.
You talk about the new challenges. We have a whole lawsuit that's going against us with the buyer's representation, and that's a whole thing. I presented this to a buyer recently, and they're like, well, we haven't, come across this. I go, it's new.
Yeah.
There's so much new going on in the world.
Evolving, absolutely.
It's always constantly evolving. Just because it didn't happen before doesn't mean it's not happening now or will be in the future.
Right.
So just kind of paralleling. I mean, it's so true.
It really is. I mean, so technology is a huge part of it too. I also think that we are putting more of an emphasis on social emotional learning.
Okay.
I think before it was always, what does my child need? What letters they need to know? What do they need to be reading? What are they counting to?
Do you still do like the summer book?
Summer reading list. They do, but there's not as much of an emphasis on it. Like there's no more, I'm speaking for elementary. I know middle and high school have more demand in that sense. From an elementary, we have a suggested reading list. We send home summer work packets or like different like sight word cards that they can practice. So we send that home, but there's no homework in elementary like there used to be. We are trying to promote now that families are spending time together at night. If it's 6 hours a day of really productive struggle and kids working, we don't want them then to sit at a dinner table for 3 hours and have that same struggle. I'd rather personally see a family sitting at the dinner table together and playing a board game after dinner, spending time. I mean, just the concept of winning and losing can be a really big emotion for a young child to handle.
But Amanda, we're all winners.
We are all winners.
We're all no.
We are. If you're playing like a game of Chutes and Ladders, and let's say you lose the game,
I'm all for a loser once in a while. You do need a loser at some point because it pushes you forward, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things that it can be really hard to win or lose in a board game or something. So we try to teach that no big deal.
Strategy.
We played for fun. We're going to use our strategies, positive self-talk. We're going to play again next time. Let's congratulate who did one. So it's all those other taking turns, really like understanding those self-regulation
100%.
skills. I would rather see families spending time together, doing that together, playing Scrabble. You could still work on your letters and words, but you're doing a family game.
Scrabble's the best because it teaches you so many different skills. Everything from winning, losing, strategy. Yeah. Everything, just competitiveness, but not. And then now you're also learning your vocabulary.
Right. So, vocabulary, sharing. That's a really hard concept. If you don't have a sibling at home and it's just you, and then you walk into a room with 24 kids, really trying to understand how to share and take turns. And I think reading at home at night though is so powerful.
I love that.
If you can even just read together before bed at night.
What was your favorite story as a kid? Like bedtime story as a kid?
I loved that Goodnight Moon.
Me too.
It just sticks out.
Yes.
It was. I had a big copy of it, and I had the little bunny to match the book.
I didn't have the bunny.
I loved that book. And there's so many good books out there nowadays.
Is it true or false? And maybe this is just me. I feel like they always gave you some sort of toy or trinket or animal with a book or something that back in the day, and they don't as much anymore.
Not as many.
Okay.
No.
There was always like a charm. I remember always having some sort of charm or bracelet or stuffed animal that went with a book or something. It was always an additional, especially with a book fair at school.
Yes, which those still exist.
Yes, but those were like down and nitty gritty where you're like, oh my God, I got a new book.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Scholastic book fairs are still a thing. Yeah. You don't see as many of those stuffed animals, but there are some really great book series that are out there. And
so what's the newest book series? I remember, oh my God, the Boxcar Kids.
Oh my gosh. Blast from the past. Yes. Or like Bernstein Bears.
Bernstein Bears I never read, but yes, of course.
Big one. I'd say nowadays, Mo Willems' Elephant and Piggy books are very popular. I like those, especially for the young age, because a lot of them are wordless or just have like one word on a page. So the child is using their inner voice to use the picture to start to talk about the story. That's a great first book to read as they're about to learn to read, because first they're just talking about the pages and they're talking about the pictures.
Making a mental note for everyone. I think that's a good one.
Mo Willems is a great one. Pete the Cat is very popular. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Well, all I just think of is Pete the Cat. Her husband's Pete.
Husband named Pete.
Pete the Cat.
Yes.
I'm going to call him that now.
Oh, yeah. Whenever the kids find out my husband's named Pete, they ask, are you married to Pete the Cat? Not quite.
Yeah.
But the kids love him. It's great. God. That's a really good, there's some good ones. Pete the Cat, and there's a book about like school rules, how to tie your shoes. There's some good life skill books there that teach those
Loop,
concepts.
Swoop, and Pull.
Yeah, right. I know.
The two butterflies.
The bunny ears.
The bunny ears.
Yeah, I think there's so many good picture books. Honestly, there are picture books now out there nowadays for anything. You know, I think about, I had a parent last month of school come to me and say, hey, my child is 6 years old and she's going to be attending her first wake. And I don't know how to explain that to her. And she said, I'm very hesitant about taking her, but she wants to go. She's asking questions.
Yeah.
How do you as an educator think I should handle this?
That's a great question.
And it is, because every family has the right to decide how they want to handle it. But there are some great picture books out there that talk about going to your first wake, going to your first funeral, how to handle that. So really, like anything, or if like, let's say a child's having a hard time trying new foods at home and they're a picky eater, there are picture books out there. There's one called Taste the Rainbow that talks about like trying different
like Skittles.
food. It does, I know. But like trying your vegetables that are green and trying grapes that are purple, and then the kids check off as they taste the rainbow. So there are books out there really for anything as you're building those skills with kids.
That reminds me of my chore list as a kid. I remember it was the back of my door, my bedroom.
Yeah.
And it was like, I had to make my bed, I had to do this, and then I had to do the whole entire week and check every box. And then I got like a treat at the end or whatever.
I love that.
So it was just,
builds that responsibility.
Yeah, just, and it
great.
was little. I didn't always hit every mark because I was like 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But it's still set like, here's my checklist, here's my check boxes.
Yeah.
And it was nice checking it off, you know.
Kids crave that. You think about us as adults, we crave structure. Let's say, I mean, as much as I love going on a vacation, being out of my routine, I feel it. So when you think about a young kid that is out of their structure or routine, they need schedule, they need routine.
It's like my dogs even.
Exactly. We all thrive on that. And there's an empowerment for a child to check off things. Like I have a to-do list at work. I write everything down. It's so empowering to check things as I do things. There's a lot to be said for structure like that.
Yep. I would agree. We have it where it's like I have a shared note with my assistant, and it's like we have that shared note. You can check the box, and it feels so good because then it goes down to the list, and you're like, okay, what's next?
Right. No, absolutely. Kids crave that for sure.
So what would you say is like a typical day in the life of a kid nowadays? I mean, I don't really know. What would you say is your also biggest advice when it comes to picking a school, or
oh my God, so many good questions there.
You know,
I have so many thoughts about all that. Okay, so I'm going to start with your first question. For a child, I think nowadays, I was very fortunate back years ago. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and it was great. And I also had half-day kindergarten, so I spent the morning with her. I went to school in the afternoon. Most schools nowadays are full-day kindergarten, and nowadays, with inflation and everything, we don't see as many stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads. We don't see as much of it. We see a lot more parents working. So when I think about the life in the day of a child, there's a lot more before and after school care. So if that's something that you need and you're looking at a school to pick, I would definitely look into the program that a school offers. Do they have before and after school care? What does that look like? Is there enrichment? Our district has it, and it is cost efficient. We have a lot of families that access it. So that's something I would definitely consider and look at. And I think with that too, daycare is very expensive nowadays.
Yes. Oh my God. It's like a second mortgage.
It is a second mortgage. So when I speak about inflation, we're seeing a lot less kids going to daycare because parents work from home fully remote now, so they can be at home. So when they're coming to school, it's their first time ever coming to school.
Well, it's the choice of sometimes I'm seeing even with my own clients that they're choosing that one parent staying home because it's more cost efficient than for them to even hire or deal with daycare or deal with anything like that.
Right.
It's crazy. I mean, it is.
It is. So, and it's really hard. So once the child goes to kindergarten, we're finding that a lot of parents will both work, and we see a lot of before and after school care.
Okay.
So that's something I would definitely look for.
What kind of is like an after school care? I remember growing up myself, we had like, you know, home economics almost they did. So that's where my pillow came from.
You know, exactly. It is more
like
that
cooking
fun and rich.
skills.
Yes,
like
exactly.
we did cooking skills. We did sewing skills. I have to remember back to 3rd grade.
Yeah. It is a lot more of that outside playing games, doing a lot of like STEM science projects.
Yep.
It's a lot more hands-on project-based learning, which is great. They also can get help with any work they have, any reading, if they have any homework or at-home work.
Okay.
They can work on that there with adults or tutors, so that's really great.
Okay.
They get their snacks and everything, but the our school day ends at 3:30, and we have aftercare till 6.
Okay.
And then it starts at 7 a.m. And we do have some kids that are there the full day, and that's a long day.
That tracks to what I grew up with too. Like, did you do the same thing? Like, I feel like
I didn't, but I see so many families on nowadays. It's just the nature of that 9 to 5 schedule. It's just a lot more of it.
Yeah. My parents divorced when I was really young. I was like a year old. So my mom had me full time. So during the weekday, she had me, but she had to also work.
Right.
And she was working in New York City, 25 minutes away, door to door, depending on where, you know, how long it took her to get home. She'd be home between 6 or 6:30. So she had to figure out what to do for me from 2:59. For whatever reason, they literally had school end at 2:59.
By the minute.
It was like 2:59 or 2:58. I don't know why.
But not 3 o'clock.
Not 3 o'clock. It was like 2:50. Yeah, I want to say it was like 2:58 was the end of the day.
Yeah.
And because we started at 7:51.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
It's those, a lot of it is with busing too, based on what time the middle school or the high school has busing. It's getting that elementary. So it's down to the minute, I feel like, with these bus routes and these
we
start
never had a
times.
bus route. So that's the crazy thing. I was like, a lot of people in my town growing up outside New York in like Westchester County, we pretty much all walked
neighborhood schools.
Or the parents drove at the time. I mean, you know, this is a long time ago that moms still were able to, or dads were able to, you know, one working household sometimes.
Right.
But I remember those after school programs, and then I went straight into sports as I got older.
Yes, exactly. No, and it was, I mean, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and then she slowly transitioned to mother's hours. And then as I got older, she started working full time. And I was very lucky to have that because I had dance, I had activities, my brother had activities. But, you know, it's so nice to see that these programs offered for and after school are so enriching. They are. Kids get to be immersed with multiple age groups. It's great.
Amanda, I still remember my 3rd grade projects. Like, that's crazy.
It sticks with you.
It sticks with you for so long, longer than you think.
When you have these meaningful project-based activities, they're powerful. They're hands-on. I think that's the most authentic kind of learning that you could have.
Do you have any like projects that you did as a kid that you remember?
Oh, I gotta think about this. I actually have a project that I did as a kindergarten teacher that I loved.
Okay.
So we had a unit where we were talking about nutrition, like the My Plate design, and we were incorporating it into a writing lesson.
What is My Plate design?
So remember how we used to have the food pyramid?
Yes.
They modified the food pyramid into the My Plate. With the portions. You'll have to Google it after this.
Okay.
My Plate. That's your homework.
All the edits. All the edits.
There's no more food pyramid, and there's the My Plate. And it talks about how many veggies you need, how many grains you need. So I did this unit with my students where we talked about My Plate, and they had to write about nutrition. So I had my principal dress up as Cookie Monster from Sesame Street, because all Cookie Monster eats is cookies. Yes. He has no diet besides cookies. So he came into the classroom and said, all I eat is cookies. Can you guys teach me how to eat healthy.
Oh, I love that.
And they had to hands-on write plans for him, teach him how to eat healthy. They wrote, they drew pictures, they taught Cookie Monster how to eat a healthy, balanced diet. The kids learned so much from it. And I actually was able to take them. At the time, I was at a city school in Boston, so everything was close by on foot. So I took them to the Trader Joe's down the street, and we went on a grocery store scavenger hunt.
So how many kids did you go with?
I had 22 students. It was me.
To Trader Joe's.
To Trader Joe's.
22 kids. That is a field trip, Amanda.
It was a field trip that I'll never forget. But the kids had little scavenger hunts.
Quick question. Was there a buddy system? Like, how did you keep track of 22 kids? Because Trader Joe's is like my playground. So I don't know how, when you have candy up and down the aisles, and as much as it's all about nutrition, how do you keep these kids not grabbing the Cookie Monster cookie?
That is a lot of pre-teaching and a lot of behavior management, buddying them up, having an adult in the front, the back, and the middle, and making sure I've taught into expectations and really teaching into that. That's where it's the behavior management that takes up so much energy. It's huge. But they were a well-oiled machine. They did this scavenger hunt. They took all their learning from Trader Joe's and taught Cookie Monster. That was a unit I'll never forget, and I know they'll never forget.
I love that.
Just a really authentic way to teach nutrition to them and get them writing about it.
That really flipped the script, I would say, especially taking an old theory and then flipping it on its head and really saying, here's how we do it now, but really applying the principle.
Yeah. And that's that hands-on learning and project-based 21st century learning. Learning isn't meaningful if we can't apply it to everyday life. If we want kids to learn versus memorize, we need that authentic hands-on learning opportunities.
That's so different. And you don't memorize everything. You're never going to actually remember it.
Right.
If you're going to pound your head against a wall saying, dates and stuff for a history test, that's different.
Right.
But really remembering the things back in, the day, it's like, I still remember my third grade projects.
Yeah. No, exactly. So to tie that to your question, though, when someone is looking for a school, those are the questions to ask. What's the curriculum look like? Is there hands-on project-based learning? A lot of ways that you can do that. Yeah. You can go on the school's website and you can look at their curriculum maps and their pacing guides. Okay. You can look at what's called a DCAP plan. Okay. So a DCAP plan is it's an accommodation plan. Okay. It's a plan that really outlines how the needs of all students are met. We can't have this one size fits all model. That's not how students
appreciate that. I feel like nowadays, like you can't just have it where everyone's taking the same learning concept and approach. Like it's never going to be there.
Work. We have so many different learning styles, different modalities, and we all have different strengths in areas that we're growing in. So, and parents want to be involved. So if a school has a DCAP plan, and let's say a child is struggling with their reading fluency, the parent should be able to go into that DCAP plan, look up fluency, and be able to find some strategies to practice at home. So when you're looking for a school, really look for those things on a website. But beyond the screen, I would call the school itself and ask to tour, because there's something. We do tours throughout the summer, and we offer them during the school year as well, for a child to come in. And I mean, the moment they walk into that main office, they should feel welcomed by the secretaries. Do you feel welcomed by the principals? Is there student work hanging on the walls? That says a lot. When you have work samples hanging up, there's lots of color. There's lots that you walk through classrooms and learning's coming alive. You don't just see kids with a worksheet at a desk. You see them involved in learning. Take a tour. Don't be afraid to ask, hey, can I come in and tour the school if you're looking for a new school? Because principals are willing to do that in a heartbeat.
I love that. That's so great. I just remember, growing up and having my stuff hung on the wall. And, it's like that pride, and it's, it's the integration of being involved.
Yeah. So. And I think, too, what I would do, too, if I were a parent looking for a school for my child, I would want to see, what does the communication look like? So I know myself, as my principal and I, we do a weekly newsletter. Okay. It's very colorful. It's very student-centered.
Oh, I love that.
It's kind of a window into the school. They're at work all day, so let's put pictures in of what the week looked like. I'll spotlight a classroom. I'll put an at-home resource they can try. We'll write a blurb of what our week looked like. Yeah. We send it out every Friday.
Oh my gosh.
But we also, and it does take time. We put a lot of heart into it, but it is so worth it. We look at the analytics, our families are reading it, and then we put them on our website. So if someone's looking on our website, they can see all those newsletters, and we have people we'll interview teachers, and they'll come to the table and we'll ask them, why do you want to work here? And they'll say, well, I saw your newsletters on your website and they were so student centered. It made me want to work here.
Full circle, really.
So and if a parent on the flip, if a parent sees that, they're like, wow, okay, I want to get my child into this school. So I think looking for that communication and really doing your research is important.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all these amazing tips, Amanda.
Of course.
So Amanda Lankarge, and she's been such a great guest. Thank you again. Hopefully you'll be on another one with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
So great coastal conversations with Hilary Marshall and Amanda Lankarge. Thanks again for coming.